Looks like, okay, I'm back. Okay. Whoa, that was kind of crazy. Okay. So I think I froze just a little bit, but I am back now. So hopefully it will catch up. Yay. All right. Hi, I am Krisha Young. I am a mind unfucker and I run this group, Bettering Your Relationships. Now I am a coach and I predominantly work with women, helping them, helping you fall in love with yourself and create amazing relationships in your life. I'm very, very passionate about relationships. And because it's the cornerstone for a lot of things for us, right? We relate in every kind of area, whether we're at work or with our kids or with our families, or with our partners and lovers and spouses and all that kind of stuff, right? Like relationships are really important to us. And we have this like super twisted view of relationships out there. And for myself, I don't know about you, but for myself, I learned all about relationships from my parents, my grandparents, and then surprisingly, TV and movies. I didn't realize until the last like 18 months or so how much of an impact television and movies had on me growing up, because I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the age of like all of a sudden there's like, VCRs and television and all this stuff that really wasn't around that much before. This plethora of information coming out, and some of the stuff that I got from television that now I've healed and moved on from is insane. Like how a sexual woman is always the woman who's the marriage breaker upper, like what? Like think about it, right? Think about all these movies where the dude has an affair or something like that, and always the woman that he's having an affair with is like some homewrecker, like slutty, like super sexually expressed woman, and the wife is at home being, like really good and being an honest and whatever woman. And it's like, wow, what a message that's sending. So like married women are non-sexual beings, and only like it's just insanity. Anyway, that's not what I'm in here to talk about. So hi again, my name is Krisha, and welcome to this group. If you are on here live, hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. Please don't hesitate to ask your questions, leave comments, anything like this. I want to reiterate and slow down. This is a safe space, okay? And there's not a lot of that out there right now online. And so I want to let you know that this is a safe space. And if there's anything that you would like to comment on or discuss or anything like that, and you don't really want to put it in the comment section, you can send me a DM or PM, whatever, a message in Messenger, whatever you want to call it. And I would be happy to respond to you in there and support you in there. And also, I want to create a very safe community here as well in my Facebook group for people to support one another and, get resources and tips and advice and so on and so forth in order to help you have healthy relationships, starting with the one with yourself. Okay. So today I want to talk to you about what is a roommate marriage. All right. So this term came to me a few months ago, and it was just like this lightning bolt. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's what this is, right? And basically it's rampant in our society, okay? We have, because of these broken and misinformed ways of getting into relationships, an unconscious way of getting into a relationship, we end up partnering up with somebody who may not be our ideal partner. And it's because we don't do it right at the dating stage. Okay. So that's like where I'm now also creating a program, Stop Dating Dicks, to help empower us women into asking the right kind of questions and being in alignment with who we are and knowing what we want and being able to speak our needs, which is very, very difficult for us, right? At the beginning, at the dating stage of a relationship, so that we can start to decipher who's right for us and who's not. And when we have trauma patterns and relational issues from childhood, because of what I was saying at the beginning, where we, we might not have learned how to have healthy relationships, like from my history, my parents divorced when I was little. They didn't have a healthy relationship. They didn't have a healthy marriage. And it was the same thing. The way they entered into it wasn't conscious. It wasn't real. It was an escape. It was for other reasons, but they weren't aware of that at the time, right? And so there's a lot of people who are in relationships at that level where they enter into it incorrectly. And then they have, women especially, have a lot of expectations and an inability for us to be able to all the time speak our needs and speak our truth. And so we bottle and we stuff and we accommodate and we do all those things. And then the next thing you know, we're like, bah, like bansheeing it out. And we're looking at our partner going, what have I married? Like, what is this, right? There's many different scenarios here, many, many, many different things. Sometimes you do enter in the relationship and it's like, oh my God, this is my guy. I love him so much. Amazing sex at the beginning, like just everything that you wanted. And then as the years go on, you're like, oh my God, this is not what I want at all. This is what looked good on paper, or this is what my parents wanted me to have. And I settled. And now I'm in this situation where I don't actually even like this guy, let alone love him. But now we have this big life with each other, right? So you are now living in a relationship or a marriage where you guys are looking at each other and you're like, I don't know, man, like this is just not it for me. And you're feeling very frustrated by it. You've tried a lot. You've done marriage counseling. You've read the books. You know each other's love language even. Like you go on dates, right? You go on date nights and things are still not getting better. And you're wondering what the hell? And you're looking at maybe I should just go. But the thought of that is absolutely terrifying because maybe you have kids, maybe you have business or work together, maybe you have like a community of people or a religion, where divorce is just not acceptable, and so you feel trapped somehow. Okay, and so you stuff all of that down, all of those feelings, all of those things, because this type of marriage that I'm talking about, this type of relationship that I'm talking about, isn't one where there is blatant abuse. So that's a whole other conversation, okay? If you're in a relationship with a narcissist or with somebody who's an abuser, that is a very, very, very different conversation. And I'm happy to support you through that as well. But that requires a very different set of tools and a very different set of awarenesses and support system for that. Okay. I'm talking about, the kind of relationship where it's like not bad enough to leave, but it's not good enough to stay. And it's like, he's a good guy, but, and you can't really quite justify why you want to go, other than your heart just telling you that this just isn't what you want anymore. But you feel, a little bit like first world problem or whatever about it. You feel very ungrateful about it. And, like, who am I to ask for more when there's so many people struggling in the world, right? And so those were a lot of the things that I dealt with myself. And not to go into too much detail here, but from my upbringing that I mentioned briefly already, and my lack of knowledge around what a real healthy relationship actually is, I ended up in a marriage, and we ended up having 2 kids together. And after a period of time, there was a very massive lack of communication that we had. And a lot of that was on him, his inability to know how to communicate. This is the other thing we're dealing with here, ladies, just as a little bit of an aside. We're dealing with a lot of men who don't understand how to communicate. They don't know how. They haven't been taught. They have been told over and over and over again that expressing your emotions is weak. And so they don't have the tools either, right? The patriarchy has hurt men and women, all right? And so, but men need to take personal responsibility over their own healing and over their own emotional safety and emotional health within themselves, right? So we can't continuously save them, and we can't continuously make excuses for them either, right? We have to come to what's true for us in that. And so my ex is an amazing man. He is an amazing, amazing man. He was a very good husband to me and loved me, and I loved him. But we had very serious communication issues that couldn't get resolved. And there was a betrayal that had happened, and we tried to work our way through that, but we could not work our way through that. And for me, as soon as my trust was broken, I was done. And so at that point, we tried to keep our family together because our children were very little. And like I said, we did love each other. And the marriage in its totality wasn't that bad, but I was feeling dead inside. And I was doing my coaching business, and I'm working with women, and I'm like, go for your dreams, like live your best life. And they're asking me, how do I do this? And all, and I was sitting there with this secret rolling around inside of me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. I haven't had sex in, I don't know how long. There's no intimacy. I don't really have a husband. I have a roommate, and that's not good enough for me, but I don't know what to do about it. I didn't know what to do about it. There was no real support out there. It was only marriage counseling. And so we went, and nothing happened in it. We tried different coaches, different counselors. We could never get it together. And so I then just focused on taking care of myself, which is why one of my programs is called Love Yourself First, because I realized that, you know what, I can't change him. I can't do anything about that. And the marriage itself, I don't know. So I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to find out who I am, what I want, what are my values, what do I need, how do I communicate, how do I find my voice, right? And that informed a lot of the work that I was doing with the women that I was working with at the time. And it ended up shifting and morphing and changing into creating a very sovereign and independent woman that I always was. But I had been conditioned to be a victim, and I had been conditioned to be codependent and very needy. And I have the anxious attachment style. So I needed to heal a lot of that in order to be able to then face this man and speak what it was that I needed from him, right? Now, the unfortunate thing was, in our container, he wasn't doing that work. So I was doing it, and I basically just outgrew him emotionally and spiritually and all the rest of it. And he really stayed the same. And so there were a lot of false promises. Yes, I promise. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, this will happen. And I hung on and I hung on and I hung on. And then I got to the point where it was like, I can't even cope anymore. I can't function anymore in this, because my soul truth, my heart was not getting, my body was not getting what it was that I needed in that particular relationship. So, I share all of this candidly because of where I am today, where we are today. And I'm going to fill you in on that at the end of this live stream, because it's not all doom and gloom. There was a lot of beauty in all of this, a lot of growth, a lot of expansion. The ability for me to be able to really truly get to the core of who I am and what I want. And in turn, when we finally made the decision to actually split up our family, which was what was right for us, then he started doing his deep work and, shifting and changing who he was at an emotional and spiritual level as well. So it's not always a bad thing. And I'm not an advocate only for splitting up families at all. I am an advocate for finding out what is the truth for you. What is it that you need in order to feel that you have a healthy relationship? And if you've never done that work before and you're finding yourself in this roommate marriage or this roommate situation, relationship, then it's likely that you don't have the full understanding or acceptance or permission, self permission about what it is that you want and what you desire in a relationship. Okay. So I'm just going to pause here for a quick second and see if there are any comments. So lovely to be able to see this. That's great. If you are on here live, hashtag live. If you're on the replay, hashtag replay. Hopefully it's not too bad. You're able to, this isn't too choppy. I'm kind of just in the flow of speaking and haven't really been paying attention to the technology here. Okay. So I don't see anything else going on here. All right. So I want to tell you about two different, there's one more thing that I want to mention here. Kind of like the elephant in the room sort of thing. And that's obviously what the situation that we're in right now, at a global scale, right? I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get banned somehow. Who knows? But there were issues, likely before this whole thing went down, that were in marriages and relationships, and being like stuck at home with one another, like a lot more, working from home, especially at the very beginning, would have raised an awareness around a lot of the issues that were actually going on in your relationship at that time, right? Prior to all of this, we had a way to escape. We had a very beautiful way to escape everything, right? We could travel like all the time. We could choose never to be home, right? We could go out with our girlfriends all the time. There were so many things that we were able to do, and we could work. We could just stay at the office until quite late, right? There were ways in which we could avoid having to see our partner and stuff it underneath the carpet of, oh, well, we're just busy, right? Ships in the night, we're just busy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you stopped for a second and you thought about it, wouldn't you actually want to have more intimacy and more connection with your partner? And if not, then there's your sign, right? So with everything that's been happening, obviously we've had like a big, massive shutdown in a lot of areas, and it's probably forced a, okay, I think I'm back. So we're almost 2 years into this now, and if there's issues there, and you haven't been able to get them resolved, it's the time now to really take a look at this stuff, right? There's a lot of other issues, too much time together, an inability to be able to cope with overall everything that's going on, let alone your relationship as well. Feeling ungrounded because a lot of our practices have been gone, right? Like, I have not done anything with spiritually with other people for almost 2 years, and I'm losing my mind as a result of it. I need people, and we need people. We need gathering, and especially women. And so, that I couldn't imagine how I would be going through something like this right now without the support of other women, right? And that's what I want to offer here, is a support system for women who are going through this, because I didn't have anything that was specific to this particular issue. I had coaches for different things, mostly business, but I didn't have anybody helping me walk through my roommate marriage and what to do about it, and how to get clear, and what, like, should I stay? Should I go? How do I figure all of that out within myself? How do I get to my own truth within this, so that I can then move forward and make sure that my kids and everybody is beautifully supported in all of that, right? My goal was not to have an acrimonious separation. I did not want that at all. And in fact, ours was quite beautiful. And now we are best friends. I'm actually in his house right now doing this recording. And we have a very wonderful, very beautiful relationship now that we were never, ever able to achieve when we were together. And a lot of that was because of the work I did on myself to unravel all of my patterns, all of my stuff around relationships. And then in turn, I was able to teach him and talk to him about it, right? There's nobody out there helping with this kind of stuff. And so I wanted to be one of the people who would be here to support you in this journey for yourself, because you don't have to suffer, right? You don't have to suffer. There's a lot of what ifs in these scenarios, and it's not always culturally acceptable, and all those things that I mentioned at the beginning. And so I want to be here as a support for you to figure out what's best for you and what's best for your family, whether you stay or whether you go, right? It's whatever's going to be best for you. So I want to tell you about one of my clients. She came in to work with me, and her marriage was just existing. Like they had, they'd been together for a while. They had a daughter, and they were not in love. There was a point in time, but that relationship was entered into from a place of obligation, rather than like, oh my God, I'm in love with this man. They created a life together, but they had very different ideals around money, around success, around all sorts of stuff. And those cracks were showing. And she was feeling really like entitled and resentful. And she had all these expectations, and she was like, she had codependency, and she wasn't speaking her needs. Like there was a lot going on there. And she's a powerful woman, very powerful, very successful woman. And yet these cracks were showing up in her relationship with her husband. And so we got to work on a lot of the stuff within herself. We talked about her relationship, what the issues were, but I constantly brought it back to her, not him. We're not fixing him. We're not even looking at him. We're looking at you, only you, only you. What do you want? What's your personal responsibility in this? Why do you have these expectations? Why are you expecting him to read your mind? Why aren't you speaking what it is that you want? How can we create a safe space for you to do that? Why don't we rehearse what it is that you want to say so that you can get it out in a way where you feel very, very safe, right? What do you want from him? What do you actually need from him that isn't coming from a place of wounded victim, right? And so we worked on that, worked on it. And then, and now they have so much intimacy and connection. And she dropped a lot of the stuff that she was feeling angry about, looked at him and was like, yeah, I want to make this work with you. And they talked about it, and they didn't even really talk so much about their relationship as much as she just dropped certain things that allowed him to show up in his healthy masculine and provide for her what it was that she needed, right? So a lot of this work is also balancing out that masculine and feminine polarity within the relationship so that it's healthy, right? And so when she did that, and they started to cultivate and build up connection, community, intimacy with one another, and now the relationship is like night and day. Okay, I'm back. I think it keeps kicking me out. So it was a 20-year marriage that they were able to turn around within just a couple of weeks. I'm telling you, this stuff is powerful, very, very powerful, and a heck of a lot cheaper than a divorce. So the next step for them is working on physical intimacy. So I was like, are you guys having sex yet? And she's like, not yet. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's next. So we get to work on that. But, sex without intimacy, without connection, without communication, it's just sex. It's not lovemaking. It's not real. It's not, sorry, it is real, but it's not the depth of what we're capable of as humans, right? And then I have another client who I worked with early this year. God, at some point in the last 6 months. And, it turned out that she was actually in a very toxic, abusive, narcissistic relationship. And she was feeling very, very low about herself. And she thought she was going crazy. And she was actually part of Feminine Rising, which is the group program that I run. And in that group program, through the sessions that we were having in the group, she was going, wait a minute, that's, yeah, I want to be healthier in this way. Yeah, holy smokes, he's doing this, and holy cow. And she was having all these realizations that she wasn't crazy, that she was being gaslit, and she was being treated very poorly by this man. But her self-worth had been knocked down so far that she couldn't even really see clearly in that. But her higher self, her truth, her soul knew it. And so that's why she was in the program. So we worked on it. And then she finally had the courage to leave him. And it was wonderful. It's what she needed to do for the health and safety of her family and for herself. She needed to leave this man. And he went without a fuss, which doesn't always happen, I know. But he went without a fuss, and she found a new place. And, her life is exponentially better now as a result of it, because she took a really good look at, what was actually going on. And I do have a podcast with her. So this isn't about, the work that I'm talking about here isn't about talking to a therapist or a marriage counselor or anything like that. It's not about getting two people in a room and trying to find, how to communicate with one another or anything like that. That's not my job. That's not what I'm here for. There are lots of other people, coaches and therapists and stuff, who do that. I am here to help you figure out who you are by doing the right kind of exercises and deeper emotional healing and trauma-informed coaching that will help you, and inner child work and all that kind of stuff that will help you to really get to your truth of what it is that you want in a relationship, and how to create either create something healthier with what you have, or move on in a very healthy way as well, right? I'm not a girlfriend for you to call up over wine and complain to, there's enough of that. You know what I mean? You have to get to a point where, this is just not working for me anymore. And talking to your girlfriends about it, they can't get you any further, because either they're in the same boat or they're just not qualified to. They're giving you advice, but you're not taking it because, you're too scared. There's too much in here. There's too much at stake for you to make any kind of decision either way, right? This is not to be taken lightly. This is a very big, big, big deal. And it's not talked about enough. And I want to talk about it. So I shared that I would let you know, more about my reality now. And it's it's night and day, I mean, leaving was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. But it was necessary. We were both way beyond repair at that point, so far beyond. And we tried everything and it wasn't working, and we were not happy. And when I left, when we split, I was like, okay, I want to do this with as much love and as much compassion as possible. So you might have heard of consciously uncoupling. At that time, I didn't study that. I didn't read that book. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew the word, but I knew from all of the skills and tools and everything that I had done on myself how to do this. And I created a very safe, very strong container of love and compassion for myself, for my ex, and for my kids. And we wrote it out. And it was painful and it was hard, but it was also so expansive and so joy-filled. And when I started to really take ownership of myself and my life, I was no longer the victim anymore. And I built up this very powerful state of choice, conscious choice within my life that hadn't been there ever before. I was always a victim to circumstances because I thought I was a victim to circumstances. Everything was outside of my control. And when I made this shift, I recognized that I have sovereignty and command over my own life. And so that became a conscious uncoupling. It became then conscious dating, which is where I am now, conscious lovemaking, right? Finding partners and men to spend my time with now, that it's not from a needy, lonely, I can't believe I'm 40 something and I'm divorced place. It's like, I'm a hot, sexy woman and I know what it is that I want, and I'm going to be very clear about it and ask for it. And if that person can't meet me there, then they just have to go. Like, there's no giving people chances for potential or anything like that, right? But anyway, that's the dating program. And the other thing too in this that I will leave you guys with is it has exponentially changed how we parent. We have 2 little boys, and these little boys have gone through quite a bit in the last year and a half, and way beyond our splitting up. In fact, our splitting up is kind of like the tiniest little bit of everything else that they've gone through in the last 2 years. And if he and I were still together and had gone through these last 2 years together, living the way we were living, I don't even want to think about how awful that would have been for everybody. But because we were doing our inner work, and because we were taking personal responsibility, and because we were coming at this from love and compassion and truth and integrity, it shifted everything. And so all of the things that started unraveling for our kids in the last year and a half, online school, we've experienced 6 or 7 deaths. 2 very, like our nanny and my sister-in-law, very, very, very close people to my children. And if my ex and I were still in that space of, not communicating, having no intimacy, fighting, all of that kind of stuff, there's absolutely no way we would have been able to be a very beautiful support system for our children that were then now experiencing something unprecedented that we had no idea how to deal with, because nobody's ever been in this boat before, right? And so because of that work of conscious uncoupling that we did, we were able to be very strong parents for these 2 boys and give them the tools to be able to weather everything that's going on and still be happy and like joyful children in the midst of all of this. Let me tell you something. When my parents were going through their divorce, oh my God, it was not like that at all. It was awful. Very, very, very toxic. Very, very, very bad. And I know that there are a lot of families out there that when they do split, it is unhealthy as anything, right? And I want to be a catalyst for change in that. I want to be a person who can help you navigate these waters no matter where you are, whether you decide to stay or whether you decide to go, right? What do you want? That is always my question to you. What is it that you want? Get honest with yourself, get real with yourself. And it might be painful because you don't have it and you don't know how to get it. That's okay. We'll have to start somewhere, because otherwise, like I always say, it's playing whack-a-mole, it's shoving it down, and it's going to come out in a whole bunch of other ways. So you might as well just deal with it, right? And so my offer to you is, if this is something that you are in the midst of and you really need support with it, or you really want support with it, because I'm telling you, this kind of support is not out there, right? So, if you're like, yeah, man, I could use some help from a qualified professional and someone who's been there and gets it, then I'm your woman. And how I will help you is either through Feminine Rising, the group program that we have, or through one-on-one coaching, depending on whatever it is that you desire. Either way, I want you to book an ascension call with me. And on this call, we're going to look at what's going on, what is it that you want, what's standing in your way, and whether or not now's the time to do the work. And if it is it with me in my programs, right? No obligation, no nothing. Either way, you're going to walk away feeling super clear. Guaranteed, guaranteed, guaranteed. The call alone will be enough for you to move forward exponentially. I guarantee that for you. So if this is something that is on your heart and on your mind, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to live like this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. And you want to feel like joy and love and expansion and, like feel that intimacy and have that intimacy and that love that you just maybe cannot get from your particular partner right now. And you know that you're ready and willing to look at what needs to be done, then I'm your girl. I'm your woman. I'm your goddess to help you with that. So that is what I'm going to leave you with here today. Thank you very much. Hashtag replay for those of you watching the replay, because I don't think that there were very many people in here live today, which is interesting. Maybe this is a very deep, tough topic, which of course it is, but I am here to speak the tough stuff, right? We do enough ignoring of the elephants in the room in our society, and that's why we're pretty much in the mess that we're in right now. We have to start facing our stuff because that's the only way to heal. And I've been there and I know what it's like. And so I am here offering a very safe, strong, powerful, intimate, confidential container for you to be able to navigate your roommate relationship or your roommate marriage and see what is the best option for you going forward. So schedule in an awakening call with me. I mean, like, if anything, we just get to talk for an hour and you'll have like so much stuff moved aside for you. And, it'll be a shifting call for sure, no matter what you decide. And plus, I want to get to know you. I want to know who you are. I want to know what's going on and how I can support you in any other way as well. So thank you again. I am Krisha Young. I am a mind unfucker. And I am a worthiness coach and a relationship coach that helps you have better relationships, starting with the one with yourself. And my clients also call me a divine sex goddess coach too. So there's that as well. All right. Thank you so much. Book yourself in for that call. I'll put the link in and I will see you in the next live stream next week.